Hello and welcome back. So now that we know the basic derivative rules, let's move on to some trig derivatives. So what are our trig functions? We have sine, cosine, tangent, cotangent, cosecant, and secant. So you probably want to get a pencil right now and write these down because these are, I'm just going to give you some trig derivatives that you need to know, and you should have these on your trig reference sheet on an exam. But if you're not allowed to use a trig, or you don't get a trig reference sheet, then you probably need to memorize these. So the sine of x prime equals the cosine of x. The cosine of x prime equals negative sine of x. The tangent of x prime equals secant squared of x. The cotangent of x prime equals negative cosecant squared of x. And cosecant x prime equals negative cosecant of x times the cotangent of x. And finally, the secant of x prime equals the secant of x times the tangent of x. So you should write these down right now, or if you have a trig reference sheet that shows these, then you should have those with you while doing these problems. And these problems, even though they look more complicated, these problems are just like the ones we've been doing before. It's just that we'll have these in place of an x squared or an x cubed or something like that. And since we already know what these are, or we can look off a reference sheet, or we have these memorized, these problems are actually a bit easier than the ones we've been doing before. So copy all these down, and then I'll do one problem in this one, and then in the next couple videos I'll do a couple more problems that are a little more complicated. I'll do an easy one in this one so that you get the idea of what I'm doing here. Okay. So let's say we had y equals negative 10x plus 3 times the cosine of x. So, and we were asked to find dy over dx. So, just like we did before, we'll find negative 10x. I'm just writing this down again. 3 times the cosine of x prime. So the first thing we should do, let's use the sum rule to break this down. Do one term at a time. So we need to find. So this is the same as saying negative 10x prime plus 3 times the cosine of x prime. And then the constant multiple rule, we can take the constants out, so that's the same as saying negative 10 times x prime plus 3 times the cosine of x prime. So, what's x prime? X prime is just 1, and I know that because I remember the product rule that says x to the n prime equals nx to the n minus 1, and for x itself is just x to the 1, so that equals 1 times x to the 0, and anything to the 0 is 1, so and 1 times 1 is just 1, so x prime is just 1, so that becomes negative 10, plus, and then we have 3, which is outside. The derivative of cosine of x is negative sine of x, so this is multiplied by negative sine of x. And how do I know that? I know that from, I showed you before, I had the list of the trig derivatives. So I can further, or this is basically the answer, but I can write this as negative 10 plus, or, sorry, hold on. Not plus, but minus. So it's negative 10 minus, because I took this minus out and I'm putting it up front, minus 3 times the sine of x. And that's it. That's dy over dx. So even though these problems look a bit more complicated because they have cosine or sine or tangent, these problems are actually easier because you don't have to do anything to compute this. You just know it or you don't know it. So you should be, like I said earlier, you should be given a trig reference sheet, or you should, if you're allowed to have a reference sheet, you should definitely write these down, the trig derivatives in the last screen before I erased it. And so I'm going to do a couple more of these problems that are a bit more complicated using the product and quotient rule in the next couple videos. As always, if you have questions, you can email me at utamatchboxman@gmail.com, and keep watching.